After his tragic death, Paul Walker was given a CGI send-off in 2013's Furious 7, but could we see him return again in Fast and Furious 10? Although F9 is now delayed until 2021 thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, the 10th and supposedly final film in the franchise is still planning to move forward, and it wouldn't be the true end of the saga if he wasn't somehow a part of it. I'm Greg Elliott with Screen Rant, and here's how we think Paul Walker's Brian O'Connor can return in Fast and Furious 10. Paul Walker's untimely death during the filming of Furious 7 obviously ended up delaying the film's production and release date. Universal almost even canceled the movie entirely, but Walker's unfinished scenes were ultimately rewritten and reshot with the help of his brothers Caleb and Cody and some clever CGI. Fast 9 is somehow bringing Han back to the franchise, and the door is now open for The Rock to return as well, now that his beef with Vin Diesel is supposedly over. We know that resurrecting actors from the dead is a very tricky proposition, but with so many important cast members potentially returning, why not Paul Walker, the guy who started it all? What it comes down to is this: if Fast and Furious 10 is really the end of the saga, and it allegedly is going to need 2 parts to wrap everything up because, well, that's just how things are done these days, it really should end as it began, with Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. The Fast and Furious franchise owes it all to Dom and Brian, and it just wouldn't be right to wrap it up without both of them, even if it is just for a brief cameo. Heck, even the first film's director, Rob Cohen, has said that he wants to come back to bring the franchise full circle. So, how could they do it? Well, technically speaking, it's nothing that they haven't done before. With the help of Paul Walker's brothers, Paul's face was effectively pasted onto their bodies. They did something similar and much more simply way back in the 90s when Brandon Lee died during the filming of The Crow, and again much more recently with Carrie Fisher for The Rise of Skywalker after her death. While the final result in Furious 7 did occasionally veer into Uncanny Valley territory, it worked for the most part and allowed them to give a proper and emotional send-off to Brian the character as well as Paul the actor. Now listen, we know what you're thinking. Using CGI to bring actors back from the dead is a very questionable practice, but even though studios like Marvel refuse to do it, Caleb and Cody Walker do support the idea of a Brian O'Connor cameo, one where he swoops in and saves the day, or some other small, tasteful moment. Dom's got a big thing for family, so much so that the appearance of a son finally forced him to stop living his life a quarter mile at a time and settle down. Aside from them being best friends, Brian is married to and has a kid with Dom's sister Mia, so he's a big part of that family. We already know that Mia's coming back for F9, so it'd be a nice little cherry on top of her cameo to see her side by side with Brian at the end of it all, most likely at another classic Big Toretto barbecue. Sure, they could very easily not do this and leave Brian off screen, but most of Walker and Diesel's appearances in the Fast saga have been all about brotherhood and family, and to wrap it up without addressing their friendship would be a disservice not only to the characters, but to the guy who, with Vin Diesel, helped build the Fast and Furious franchise. So what do you think? Is it too much to ask, or maybe even disrespectful, to bring Paul Walker back to close it out, even if it is just for a moment? Let us know what you think in the comments, and keep checking back with us to stay on track with all things Fast and Furious. I'm Greg Elliott with Screen Rant, and I'll have the tuna, no crust.